Good afternoon and welcome to the Pension Board's member education call about your flexible spending benefit plan. My name is Jennifer Markowitz and with me today is Catherine Miller. We are both team members with the Health Plans Department of the Pension Boards. Today we will review changes and enhancements to the 2018 Flexible Spending Plan. We will provide you with tools to manage your account, improve your user experience on the Highmark website, and also help you make the most of your benefit. You can feel free to submit questions throughout the presentation using the chat function under GoToMeeting. And also, if you are able to place yourself in mute mode on your own telephone, that would also be helpful for our purposes. But I'm going to go ahead and hand the presentation over to Catherine to get started.
All right. Well, thanks, Jennifer. Good afternoon to everybody. As I'm sure you're all aware, effective January 1st of this year, Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield is the administrator for the Pension Board's UCC FSA accounts. One of the many benefits of this administrative change, of having this in place, is that Highmark provides a very robust website functionality for members to manage their FSA accounts. That being said, in order to get the most direct access and benefit from your FSA account, you would have to register for a personal account on the Highmark website. That's highmarkbcbs.com. Most folks who are enrolled in the Pension Board's UCC medical plan already have a login. If you are someone who is not enrolled in the medical plan but has an FSA account, you would still want to register for a website on the Highmark website in order to manage your FSA account. Highmark does have a dedicated helpline, so if you need assistance either setting that up, your personal account up, or maybe you've lost your login information and need to reset it, you can call them at their helpline, 877-298-3918. And once you have registered your account, logged in, you will want to go to the Spending tab on the Highmark site to view your account details and to manage your account. All right, so let's talk for a moment about what you can do on the website. I'd almost be easier to say what you can't do on the website, because pretty much everything you need to manage your account you will be able to do that on the site. You're going to see your real-time balance, submit expenses. You can view reimbursements that have already been made, payments that have already been made to providers, all of your debit card transactions. You can request additional debit cards for dependents, access claim forms if you want to mail or fax a claim in. You can even pay claims directly to Highmark providers if you're enrolled in the UCC medical coverage. The quickest means of reimbursement, if you're going to get multiple reimbursements throughout the year, is you have the ability to set up a direct deposit account on your Spending tab. It's very easy. If you go to the Spending account settings, there is a link for setting up direct deposit. The website pretty much will walk you through any of these processes. But if you did have any questions, any technical questions, need assistance in any way using your Spending account online, all you really need to do is contact the Highmark customer service line, that phone number that's on the back of your ID card, 866-763-9471. So that's always a number you'd want to be able to reference if you have a problem or a question about your Spending account. All right. Now, eligible expenses. By definition, and FSA has strict IRS rules about the nature of expenses that can be reimbursed. So most of the time, and correctly, we assume that eligible expenses are going to include things that relate to medical, prescription, dental services, etc. And in general, that will be the case. However, there are a lot of other expenses that might qualify. And you would just want to make sure that you do a little bit of homework ahead of time if you have any question about whether an expense might be eligible or might not be. Fortunately, the Spending tab homepage does include a link to covered expenses. That will take you to a very detailed and comprehensive list of what's covered and what isn't. Certain things may or may not be covered, so it does kind of go through all of those qualifications. For example, if you were to purchase a blood pressure monitor, that would be a qualifying expense. So all you would need to do would be to submit your receipt, via mail, fax, or online, and it would be covered. Something like personal counseling might be covered if the purpose of it is to treat a diagnosed medical condition. But if you're just going in sort of for general counseling, it may not be covered. So those would be things you would want to kind of find out about ahead of time before you assume that you're going to be reimbursed for them. One word about over-the-counter drugs. They would not be eligible for reimbursement unless you get them through a prescription from your doctor. All right, documentation. Want to talk about debit card documentation for a few moments. This is something that so far this year we've had a lot of members call in about. It is possibly a little more complicated of a process than people have experienced in the past. Your first rule of thumb is anything that you use your debit card for, save your original receipt and statement. You always want to have that. You are most likely going to have to submit some kind of documentation or substantiation whenever you use your debit card. There are only a few exceptions to that rule. If you use your debit card to make a copay to a medical provider for an office visit, you will not have to submit documentation. If you use your debit card to purchase prescriptions and prescriptions only at a pharmacy, you will not have to submit anything. If you have a recurring expense with a provider, and basically it's the same provider, the same amount of money, and the same thing that you're purchasing, once you submit substantiation one time, you will not be required to submit it again. If any of those parameters change, though, you may have to submit documentation. So like I said, the rule of thumb is just always save your original receipts. If you receive a letter from Highmark asking for receipt documentation, you've got 3 options to submit. You can do it by mail, fax, or online, and we're going to go through all of the instructions for all of those. You'll also get an alert pop up on your Spending tab. The alert is virtually the same thing as that letter you got from Highmark. So you can send in your documentation either by following the prompts from the alert on the website or using that letter and sending the letter into Highmark. In general then, whether, let's see, was I going to turn this over to? No, I think I'm still on. Okay. So we're going to talk about some more about that online submission, et cetera, in a few moments. But let's just talk about in general about submitting receipts. You have 3 options, like I said, and you only need to, one option suffices. So let's say you mail in something. You do not then need to go online and submit, upload your receipt or submit anything online. If you wanted to mail in or fax in a receipt for reimbursement, when you go to your spending tab on the website, you will see a link for the forms library. You're going to simply download the form for the FSA reimbursement. Print that out, and you are going to fax or mail page 2 of the form. Page 1 is just an instruction sheet. Page 2 is the actual form. You will send that in, mail in, or fax that in along with a copy of your receipt. If you prefer, you can simply go online and submit a receipt. You would have to have the ability to scan your receipt or your statement, whatever your documentation is, to your computer. On the spending tab, you'll see a very prominent link for submit reimbursement, and then you're going to simply follow the prompts from that link in order to submit that. So we are going to take a look at some of the screenshots associated with that process. I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer to walk through some of that stuff.
Thank you, Kat. And I'm going to actually go ahead and address, it looks like we do have one question from one of our members in our audience inquiring about an email that they received asking them to provide some sort of substantiation to a debit card purchase. And it sounds like there is a question about the transaction number that's being used on the email not corresponding to what they're finding on their spending page. So possibly if this person could enter their email address also into the chat box, I could follow up on that after the call to try to find out exactly, what's taken place in that situation. But definitely, you would want to be able to match up the transaction that's in question, with what transactions are on the website. So, that is something also that could be handled through the customer service number that we listed in the beginning of the presentation, but I'm happy to follow up on this situation as well. So if this person could send me their email address, I will look into that situation for you. But as Catherine mentioned, I am going to go ahead and take a look here at some ways to submit claims online. So this is once you have logged into your Highmark site and you've clicked on the spending tab. If you click on the link for submit reimbursement, it will then take you to a page that looks like this. So this would be the equivalent to an online submission of a claim for your flexible spending account. So in almost every case, at the top of that page, you're going to change that radio button to attach a new receipt. I see right here it's under don't attach. I think that's just the default. But you're always going to want to attach a receipt with your claims submission. And then from there, you do need to go ahead and specify the category, the type of expense that you're submitting a request for reimbursement for, service provider name, the amount, and then the date. And really, these fields are really mostly for your information records because this is how this transaction is going to be recorded for you personally. So if you have a question later and you want to go back and see, did I submit for this particular expense or not, this will kind of categorize that for you to tell you whether you have or not. What Highmark and the IRS are really interested in is that receipt that you're going to attach, because that is the type of documentation that's needed to make sure that what you're submitting for is an eligible expense. So again, those drop-down boxes are more for your information to help you identify the expense. The receipt that you attach is what's used for substantiation to make sure that what you're submitting is an eligible expense. So again, this is kind of just a larger picture of what you're going to be doing from that site after you've categorized what type of expense it is. You click to attach a new receipt, and then you can add that file. So the way that you would do that is you would need to have the ability to scan that receipt and save it to your computer, and then you can upload it to the website by adding the file. And then just to kind of review, the receipt does have some certain qualifications that it needs to specify to make sure that it is an eligible expense. So patient name, provider name, date of service, a description of the service, amount charged, and amount paid are those qualifiers. So another way that you can use your FSA to pay your medical claims is actually by doing it directly from the website. So, and this is kind of like a separate way. So, you know, we have the ability to pay using the debit card, and you know, that often requires some backup to be supplied later. We have the ability to go online, which we just kind of reviewed that, and submitting a claim for an expense that you've already paid for out of pocket. So in that case, you would receive either a check in the mail, or if you've set up your direct deposit, then that comes back to you directly into your checking account. But another way to kind of use your FSA is that if you have your medical coverage also through the United Church of Christ pension boards, you are able to go to your claims tab on the website once you've logged in, and if you owe a balance on a claim, you can actually pay a provider directly through the website. So we're going to take a look at what that might look like. So in this situation, this is a person's claims that have come up, and you can see that the member owes $3.99 after the claim has processed through. So you can opt to click Pay Claim in this situation. And once you do that, you're going to be selecting Pay to Providers. So in this case, that money is coming out of your flexible spending account, and Highmark is creating a check on your behalf and sending it directly to your provider. So again, that is another way that you would be able to use your FSA account to kind of handle your medical claims. And this is just kind of taking a step back here, reviewing the debit card again, that substantiation and documentation is often needed to back up the expenses that are being paid for. However, you often do not need to provide that if you are making a copay to a medical provider or to pay for prescriptions. But again, most of those other expenses that you would have paid for using your debit card are going to require some backup. So we have reviewed you know, providing that backup on the website. But another way, besides like an actual submission of the receipt itself, is to use something called claims matching. So I'm going to kind of slide over some screenshots of what that might look like. So what we're doing in this situation is, say that, you know, you went to your provider and there was maybe not necessarily a copay for your services, but maybe you had a balance for your deductible that you paid. Now the debit card is used, but Highmark doesn't necessarily know exactly what that balance is for. So they're going to come back to you with that letter in the mail or the email that's saying you have an alert on your account. So you log into your Highmark account and you click on your spending tab and you'll see an alert. So then this is where these screenshots kind of come into play. So I'm going to pull this up and hopefully everybody is able to view these screenshots. So again, once you've clicked on the spending tab, you would see that orange triangle that says that you have an alert on your account. So from there, you can click Submit Receipts. And then you can see that they are asking you to submit a receipt for a specific charge that you used your card for. So once you see those charges there, you can click on the box that says Receipt Required. And then if that claim has run through the system, showing that you have that expense that has already processed through, you can opt to match it to a claim. So you select that match to a claim, and in some cases, it could be that there is no claim available at the moment, but if the claim has had a chance to process through, it will show you some options. And that's where then you can select the appropriate option to match to the claim that you're being asked to substantiate. So that, again, is another way that you would be able to substantiate your purchases that you've made with your debit card, and then you would click Submit to kind of complete that, that particular transaction. So again, that's just a summary here of that claims matching process. And I'm just going to review some important calendar reminders for the flexible spending account. In the flexible spending account, if you're not aware, it does have kind of two components. So there's the health or medical component, but there is also a dependent care component. So first, we're going to just review some important reminders for the medical care component. So if you have expenses that you want to use your account for 2018, they must be incurred by December 31st of 2018. So any expense that takes place after that date is not eligible for reimbursement under the 2018 plan. You do, however, have a claims filing deadline of March 31st of 2019. So you can still submit a claim that has taken place in the 2018 plan year up until March 31st, 2019. And that's important. Maybe you go to the doctor on December 29th, but you don't get that bill until January or February, so you can still submit it for the appropriate time period, but after that December 31st date, just as long as it has taken place in the plan year of 2018. Our plan does have what's considered to be a carryover option. So if you have a balance up to $500, it can be carried over into your 2019 account after the claims filing deadline has expired, so after the March 31st of 2019 date. Any balance in excess of $500 will be forfeited. So then just some important information, reminders about the dependent care accounts is that reimbursements for dependent care cannot exceed the amount of funds that have been deposited into your account. So this is different in that when you have your medical FSA and say you've elected the full amount of $2,650, which is the full eligible amount for 2018, and if on January 15th you submitted a claim for that full amount, you would be reimbursed that full amount. Dependent care is a little bit different in that you can only be reimbursed based upon what's been contributed so far. So for dependent care, you can only receive a reimbursement up to what has already been deducted technically from your paycheck. So if you have a claim, you've elected for dependent care for the 2018 year, $5,000, and in January you submit a claim for $5,000, you're only going to get that January part that you have so far contributed reimbursed to your account.
Can you also just mention that we had talked about the other day regarding setting up a direct deposit? So for dependent care expenses, I mean, it's only going to pay out as much as you've already contributed into the plan, but let's say you have a receipt for more than what you've put in, you can enter that receipt, set up direct deposit, and then as the money comes into the account, you will be reimbursed periodically without having to submit that receipt again. Do I understand that correctly?
That's exactly correct.
Yeah,
and you pretty much stated
okay. Well,
right there. That's just as Catherine has said, you may have a claim for the full election for dependent care of $5,000 early on in the year, and you would still be welcome to submit that claim as monies are deducted from your paycheck throughout the year. Then you would receive a monthly check, as the money has been deducted and paid into the account, then you would receive periodic checks to pay you throughout the year for that balance. So just moving along, under the dependent care account, there is what's considered a grace period. So you can actually use your dependent care account for expenses that have incurred up to March 15th of 2019. So if you haven't used your full $5,000 election by December 31st, you do have that money available to use for 2019 expenses up until March 15th. After that time, any money that is left will be forfeited, and you would then have until March 31st to submit a claim. And again, 2018 funds cannot be carried over after March 15th under the dependent care account. But that concludes, well, I'm sorry, I just want to put up here the slide that does show some links and then some phone numbers of where you can go for additional assistance under the flexible spending plan. So technical questions can mostly be directed to Highmark customer service, and that's, again, the phone number that's just located on the back of your Highmark ID card. If you need help resetting your login or with your password, that is a different phone number, and that's this phone number listed here, the 877-298-3918. But they are very good and very fast and efficient at helping you get into your account if you happen to be stuck or locked out. So don't let that kind of hold you back from accessing your account online if you can't get in. It's really a quick phone call to get that fixed for you. If you want some more detailed information about just the flexible spending account in general, you can click on the link for educational material under your spending tab. For a list of comprehensive eligible expenses Catherine mentioned earlier, it is a helpful sheet to consult. There is a very extensive list under the spending tab. If you click on covered expenses, it will give you pretty much any expense you can think of and tell you, that it's covered or covered maybe under certain conditions or not covered at all. And then again, if you wanted to set up your account for direct deposit reimbursements, you could do that under spending account settings on your spending tab when you've logged into the site. But it doesn't look like we have any other questions at this time. We will post this recording to the Pension Board's website, and we can also email this out to flexible spending plan participants. So I think that concludes our time here, unless you had anything else to add.
Not really, no. I mean, I know that's a very quick overview. The website is, there's a lot you can do on the website. I know that some of the calls and interactions I've had with members, people have had some have needed some assistance kind of navigating through that. I will say that based on my personal experience with the website, that it is really not hard to use at all. You do have to be willing to spend a moment, maybe click through a couple links. Most of it, the website will walk you through everything you need to do. In terms of getting letters or alerts from Highmark asking for substantiation, that is very easy to accomplish, and it truly is something that Highmark is required to do. Like I said, I mean, this is all kind of governed by IRS rulings, so they really have a responsibility to ensure that the reimbursements go out for eligible expenses. Submitting that substantiation is very easy. As far as uploading receipts, as far as following the prompts on the website. However, if you do need assistance, I personally have called, for technical assistance on, questions on my FSA account. And health plan reps, we are always here too, and we would always be happy to walk you through anything to get further information for you, so you can always call pension boards and ask to be connected to the health plan department. So between Highmark and between the health plan department, we absolutely want to make sure that you are able to use the website easily and that you're able to submit your receipts. So please reach out if that being the case. And no, I think that's all I've got, Jennifer.
Sure. No, and I'll just echo what Catherine has said, that the health plan staff at the pension boards is always here to assist as well. You know, if you are not able to have your issue resolved by calling Highmark customer service. But before we go, it does look like we have one other question. The question is whether or not a spouse would come under dependent care, and I have had this question previously, so I do want to clarify kind of the difference between a medical FSA and the dependent care FSA. So dependent care FSA is actually the account that is used strictly for child care or somebody who's considered a dependent within your family purposes. So like if you are paying for daycare or summer camps or certain, if you have an elderly parent, in some cases you may be able to claim some of their care. So that is specifically what the dependent care account is for. If you have a spouse that is using medical expenses that qualify under the FSA, you are able to submit claims for them and reimbursements for them. So anybody who's considered a dependent for you, even if they're not covered under your medical coverage, they are also eligible under your medical FSA for reimbursement of claims. So I hope that helps clarify kind of the difference between the medical FSA and the dependent care FSA, but they are really two different types of accounts for two different purposes. Sure, so we have one more question. Somebody who is asking whether they can have access to this webinar at a later time, and the answer is yes. We will post this recording to the Pension Board's website, and we can also distribute this, the link to the recording via email as well. So I'm just going to give it another minute because it does look like we had a couple questions pop through at the last moment here. And nothing else at this time, but again, please feel free to contact the Highmark customer service or the health plan staff here at the pension boards if you have any questions at all. But we just want to thank you for your participation today, and have a great day.
All right, thank you, everybody.